Gathering, Mr. Fabian Hamilton, he graced this meeting gathering. We are very grateful for their presence.
Well, Assalamu alaikum everybody, and I will try not to keep you too much longer because you need to eat. I've thanked the meeting, thanks to Tariq and his generosity. Firstly, thank you for all your excellent speeches, and for, I feel very humble here because there are so many more people who know what they're talking about, who've had the lived experience of Kashmir itself, and they're fighting for a struggle which is a just and right one and righteous one. I want to say thank you to my old friend Mohammed Ajib, former Lord Mayor of Bradford, because he's been an inspiration to all of us, and I have followed him and been friends with him for many decades, and I'm very proud of that. Also, of course, Ghulam Hussain, who's my chief officer, as he mentioned, when I was the chair of the Equal Opportunities Committee in 1988. Long time ago, Ghulam. We're not really old enough, actually. but he guided me together with Clinton Cameron, and he made sure that together we worked as a team. And I was so proud of that, and he taught me so much. And dear councillors, my dear friend and namesake Sharon, who is my sister in spirit, even if we're not related by blood. Somebody once said, "Is Sharon Hamilton your wife?" I said, "No, we are both married, but not to each other." But actually, I probably spend more time seeing her than my own wife, Rosie Hamilton, because of the political work we do together. She is a very active and brilliant councillor, as are all my councillor colleagues and friends. You mentioned earlier, Councillor Dalit, that our friend Tony Lloyd passed away 2 days ago. He was obviously your friend because you're from Rochdale and he was your MP. He was my friend and mentor as well for 35 years, sponsored by my union, a fighter for peace, for justice and for human rights. And this morning I almost lost it, I almost burst into tears when I received an email from the Secretary of the Parliamentary Human Rights Committee, which Tony Lloyd chaired for many years as a former Foreign Office Minister, asking the Secretary of that committee that in the event of his inevitable death, because he knew how ill he was, that I should take over the Parliamentary Human Rights Committee by election, obviously. But he wanted me to do that. I didn't know really what to say. I haven't replied yet, but I will accept it. And that will give me extra authority to fight for the human rights that you are seeking in Kashmir. The freedom, the self-determination that everybody deserves. I said I wouldn't take up too much extra time. Let me just say this. In 2024, half the world's population will go to the polls and vote for new governments, or for the same government, or for the same dictator in the case of Russia. They will have the right to vote. But you know, democracy is more than the right to vote. It's something that Kashmiris don't have the right to do at the moment, and they should have. But what is democracy? It's about having a say in our own lives. It's about determining our own futures. It's about something you said, Shaukat, not being dictated to by governments, but having the right to dismiss and appoint those governments. It's the late Tony Benn, the veteran Labour MP, who was an inspiration to so many, and the father of Hilary Benn, the MP for Leeds Central, once said, democracy is not about voting governments in, but it's about dismissing the governments that we don't want anymore. It's about people leaving office and being kicked out for what they've done, as well as the people that we want to see replacing them. Democracy is broader than that. It's about freedom under the law, the rule of law, the right to say what you believe without being arrested, the right not to be subject to arbitrary arrest for your political views, for your views for who you are, the tribe you belong to, the religion you follow, the orientation you have, the gender you are. It's about fairness and justice for all the peoples of this earth. And you know, the biggest driver of conflict is something I've learned in these last 27 years in Parliament, is inequality. Inequality between all, inequality of income, of power, of access to education, of access to water, of access to land. It's inequality that drives conflict. And Shaukat, you said something really important just now, something I wanted to make a point of, and that was the international arms trade, the responsibility that it bears, the profits that the warmongers make out of selling weapons that are designed for one purpose, to kill human beings and nothing else. They're the people we need to hold to account. Because they drive governments. They drive governments into spending hard-earned taxpayers' money on weapons they don't need to kill people indiscriminately. We need to hold them to account, because what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Yemen, what's happening in so many parts of the world right now is the international arms trade supplying weapons so that people can be killed more efficiently. We have to stop that, and we have the power to do it. So I'm going to end on 2 points. One is this. When I was Shadow Minister for this region, when I was asked how would you solve the issues in Kashmir, one of the points I made was this, that it was Britain who was instrumental in causing today's problems. Many people have said that to me. And who was the government of Britain at the time? It was the Labour Party. It wasn't us, because we're not old enough. There's only one person who was old enough to remember that, and you were a child then, so nobody else in this room is. But I think we have an historic duty, Sharon, an historic duty to bring the parties together, to say to all the parties in Kashmir, Azad Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, the Indian government, the Pakistani government, come to London. We're not the colonial power anymore, thank goodness, and we have no desire to be again. What we want is to see freedom and justice and self-determination for the peoples that have been oppressed for too long. Let's do that. Let's campaign for that, because we can be an honest arbiter here. We can do what the British government did in 1979 to bring peace to what was called Rhodesia at the time, and black majority rule. We did that at Lancaster House. Some of you might remember that. It's a long time ago. I was only in my mid-20s, but I remember it like it was yesterday. The son of the man who negotiated that, I was actually with him in Bahrain a few weeks ago at an international conference. He's called Soames, and he's the son of Sir Christopher Soames, the man who negotiated that deal. We can do it again. Nicholas Soames, grandson of Winston Churchill, of course, Tory but actually quite progressive in his own way, and a fighter for justice for the Arab peoples too. So it can be done, and it should be done, and you all have a part to play in this. And I think that lobbying up and down the country and saying Kashmir will not be forgotten. We have a right to be free, and we will be free, and we need what we deserve to have, which is a say in our own future, not being oppressed, not being killed by weapons supplied by these warmongers. We have a right ourselves. So let's impress that on everybody. And you have a great ally. You may not believe it, but one of those allies is a very close friend of mine, who is the former foreign minister of a tiny nation called Iceland. I don't know if anybody's ever been there. His name is Össur Skarphédinsson. I don't expect you to remember that. But Össur and I, whenever we meet in Reykjavik or here in London, says, how, my friend, is it going with the Kashmiri people? He's passionate about Kashmir. He was foreign minister at the same time as David Miliband here in London. We should invite him over. He may not be able to do much, it's a small nation, but he knows so many people. And the more people like that we can get on our side, the better. Because he knows, I mean, you are many more than 350,000 in Kashmir. But his country is a nation state, 350,000, one of the most progressive countries on earth, with a majority, I think, now of women members of parliament, with total equality, the most equal place you can find. Let's try and get some inspiration from those people that might help us drive our campaign for justice, for freedom, for independence, for the right to say in our own future what we Kashmiris want to see. Thank you for all the work you do and the struggle you have. We will achieve that aim. Thank you.